Well, hello, friends. Thank you. Thank you for checking in with us here on the Seven Pillars Talk Show. The seven pillars are your seven pillars to building, establishing, and creating an unbreakable life. And we are so excited to join you today. Our topic today is part two of a series that we've created called Hope for Health of America. I'm sure that you have been paying attention to the changes that we're seeing, the very timely changes, although many of us wish we would have seen them before. We get to be empowered and make new choices and better decisions today. Well, my guests today with us are some ladies who have been studying the health for their own individual families. They provide health resources for their clients and resources in the community. And they are excited to jump on this talk show to share with you their hope for the health of America and what that could look like as we step into the future. But it starts today. So I would like to introduce my guests that are here with me today. First, I'll start with Miss Mary Parker. Mary, tell us a little bit about you. I know you're just down the street from us, but tell us a little bit about you and the name of your practice, and we'll get into your story here in a few moments.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me here. So my name is Mary Parker. I own Infinite Potential Counseling and Infinite Potential Functional Mental Health. We have two offices. One is in Round Rock, Texas. The other is in Austin, Texas, out towards Dripping Springs. And we specialize in functional mental health and integrative mental health, where we're bringing in how your genetics, your diet, and your environment are impacting your overall health and well-being.
Such a big topic. And I don't feel like people have thought enough about that for a long time, right? We have been told that it's what you eat or what diet you're sticking with, but we don't think about how it's necessarily mind, body, spirit, like so much impact right in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys dig into that. So I'm excited to talk about that. But we also have Denise Norbut with us. And Denise, we're very excited to have you. So please introduce yourself and tell us what your specialty is.
Well, I really specialize. I think I'm a purveyor of hope. So I'm really excited about the title of this show because my philosophy is where there's breath, there's hope. And so I really provide creative health solutions for people who feel like they have plateaued in their health journey towards their health goals or their weight goals or whatever it is. And I really feel like the last few years have been really difficult for a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of people are still kind of stuck or plateaued. And so that's what lights my fire, is to help people to move beyond towards their goals.
I love that. And I think, so much of that is true. We've gone through this several years of things that we've dealt with from a psychological point of view, from, things that have affected us, that kept us home, kept us immobile, kept us outside of community and connection, and a lot of things kind of manipulating what health actually looks like. And that's really where we want to start. Now, we're not going to live in a place of kind of doom and gloom, but we do have to bring it out. We do have to talk for a few moments about where we are at, right? Where we're at to kind of confront it and face it. And then we're going to talk after that about some empowering things. One of our themes for Unbreakable is taking back your power. And knowledge is power if you use it. Right? It is a tool that is incredibly powerful, and we're going to get into that, but you have to use it in order for it to have any power. Otherwise, we find ourselves giving our power away by deceitfulness and potentially lies and things that we've just believed that really didn't serve us. So I'm going to start with opening that door, the door of, okay, what does the current state look like? What are we seeing? And I'll start with Mary, and you can talk a little bit about what you're seeing in your practice and how you're seeing that. And I would even encourage you, Mary, to talk a little bit about what got you excited about this journey for yourself.
Okay, so my journey started when my son was 18 months old and he received a medical injury. And we had to go down the path of non-traditional medicine because traditional medicine was failing him. And it continued to make him sicker and was harming him more on a daily basis. So I had to explore why. Why is this happening for my kid? Why is he having these responses to traditional medical care? And it opened up an entire world of knowledge that I had no idea about until it was put in my face and I didn't have a choice. So my son is not the only kid who's ever been injured by, medical care, and doctors that believe that they're doing the right thing, and don't know that they're not doing the right thing for everybody. Medicine doesn't fit everyone. It is not one size fits all. We're all individuals, and we really need to approach medical care from that lens, as opposed to this is what works for everyone and assuming that that's true.
And we're seeing a lot of that right now. Some of the things that we're seeing just in the market, some of the advertisement that we're seeing around pharmaceutical prescriptions and things like that. This is the pill. This is the thing. And I even myself found myself getting involved with different diet programs and protocols over the past, because I thought I just need something that's going to work, right? Without looking internally and seeing, okay, who is Teresa Poor? Like, what is the makeup of my body that I truly need? How do I need to fuel myself? And by not doing that, I found that in many cases, I actually hurt myself rather than helped myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I know that a lot of times our purpose comes from pain. And I hate that anybody goes through it, but I'm so grateful, Mary, that you decided to do something about it and that you're using that very painful moment to help others and serve others from that pain moment. So, Denise, how about you? How did you I know we were talking a few moments ago about you've been studying this since like the 70s and the 80s. And what caused that interest for you?
Well, I was bedridden at 17.
Wow.
And I found answers in herbs. I'm very much an herbalist. I love herbs and nutrition. And so when I discovered that, it was like, whoa, this is so cool. And from then on, that's what I wanted to do, is I wanted to study how the body worked and what we could do, because like you say, we are all individuals. And while there are some things that work for humans, it's very much an individual thing. And so that's why I use energy in my practice, energy testing, because we are each individuals. And so that brought me to the point, that brought me to the point of knowing that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, is to help individuals find their answers.
I love that.
And give them hope too.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I know for me, I had to go through this kind of a backwards approach. Like I didn't have something specific happened, but I kept coming to this place in business and in life and in relationships where I was just frustrated and hitting walls. And so I had to do a lot of internal work, and I kind of went backwards. I started with like mindset and self-discovery and limiting beliefs and trauma. And then I found my way into health. And that's how, my pillars, the 7 pillars, go from self-discovery through purpose, and health actually sits right in the middle. Because personally, for me, I didn't have the story of a moment with a child or a moment from myself. But we all find our self-discovery journey around health at some point or another. And hopefully we can be proactive. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how we can take proactive steps. What are some things that we want to look for so that we're not finding ourselves in a place that we are compromised or are required to take unnecessary steps. So, Mary, you and I were talking recently about food. And when it comes to food, how much the food that we eat actually plays a role in our ability to function. In fact, one of the things that you told me was that you have 2-year-old patients. You take care of people from 2 years old to 102, right? And that you had a 2-year-old patient in your facility, and the mom was thinking, "Oh my gosh, my child has ADHD." And I think a lot of people are diagnosed with certain things, and what we've talked about is those are mainly symptoms of a lot of underlying causes. So can you talk a little bit about how food causes not only certain things with our body, our physical body, but also our mental, capacity.
So, one of the big conversations that I have with families is around the fact that mental health is not its own disease. It is a symptom of something that's going on in the body. And it starts with what we're putting into our body, because the gut is actually our first brain. Everything that we need for mental health starts there. So if we're feeding it wrong, then we're not giving it the nutrients and the vitamins that it needs in order for it to create dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, even melatonin. All of those things begin in our stomach. So when we're eating a highly processed diet, we're introducing things into our body that are causing inflammation, and that inflammation starts in our gut lining. When our gut lining is inflamed, well, then our gut is not doing the job that it's supposed to do with the nutrients that it does receive, because it can't process them. It's too busy trying to heal the damage from the inflammation that we keep reintroducing. And that inflammation expands out from the gut into the cells and into the other organs, and can even make it to the brain.
Wow.
So the foods that we eat really determine our physical health, but also our mental health. And for children, most of these kids that are getting diagnosed with ADHD, if we can change their diet and we can modify the things that we're putting into their bodies, then we're going to see behavior change. 2-year-olds are supposed to be hyper in some degree. They're supposed to be exploring the world, putting their hands on everything, climbing things, taking things apart. So that's also part of the conversation as far as ages and stages. But when we're putting in things like red food dye and these super duper high doses of sugar and seed oils that are causing inflammation throughout the entire body, then we're going to have disruptive behavior. And if we also don't understand that sometimes the foods that we're putting into ourselves, like I had a 7-year-old that we worked with. The family came in. The kid was pretty typically very mild-mannered, very polite young person, but there was an unpredictable pattern of aggression and anger, and it would seem to come out of nowhere. This family did not have the ability to pay for genetic testing, so we went the route of just doing a food mood diary.
Okay.
And we tracked what the kid was eating for 30 days, and a pattern emerged within the first week.
Wow.
The child was having a reaction to something that was in orange juice. And he had been born with a tongue tie. So that does indicate that we've got MTHFR, which is a genetic mutation that has an influence on our ability to process folic acid in the synthetic form, and then how our body can use folic acid. So for this particular kiddo, the synthetic form of folic acid, which is sourced from a black mold and nobody should actually be ingesting, was causing aggressive behavior, because for people with MTHFR, it's a neurotoxin that builds up in the organs and stays there. So we changed the orange juice to an organic orange juice, and all of the negative aggressive behavior went away.
Wow. That's incredible. I think so many things can come off of that. Again, back to knowledge is power and taking back your power. I feel like one of the things is you were talking about, the things going to our guts first. I've seen a lot of advertisement on Facebook and social media in general, where you have these scientists or doctors. I don't know their credentials. I haven't followed them. But they're talking about the gut health, and they're talking about these types of things. And at the end of their 3-hour-long infomercial, they are selling a pill. Again, a pill, right? Something that is one size fits all. Tell me how you feel when you see things like that show up. What is, obviously they're addressing a situation, a very now being informed, situation that this is a problem. We're all speaking that same language. That gut is where things start. I'm hearing that trend a whole lot more, but I'm back to that piece of individualized care. And I really have a hard time with one size fits all.
So I love that they're getting the information out there about the gut-brain axis and how important it is that we address what's happening in the stomach. But doing it from a pill is not the thing that's going to work for everybody, because we need to get to the root cause of what is it that's causing the issues in your gut. We do have food items that could be the issue, but you could also have things like mold. Like, what if mold made it into your intestines and that has never been addressed? Or what if strep throat actually made it into your gut? How does that affect your intestinal lining and your neurobiology? So there's more testing that needs to be done before we just toss pills or diet or vitamins at someone. We need to know exactly what is the microflora that we're working with for that person before we take those steps.
Yeah. So well said. And Denise, I think about a piece of our conversation earlier about just how that affects relationships, right? When we are obviously in the example that you gave, the child's relationship with a parent or maybe the students at school or all of those things was probably a challenge. What are you finding as you're working with your clients or your patients? What are you seeing as it relates to potentially how they eat, and how that responds in relationships or how that responds in mental health? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the connection between what we eat and how we act is huge. And it's my opinion that a lot of that is based on keeping your blood sugar level, because when the blood sugar is, um, you know, uh, fluctuating, so does the mood.
Sure.
And the brain uses more blood sugar than our body does. It's like super important for us to keep that steady if we want to be stable mood wise. So that how we eat is changing the mood, which of course changes how we respond to, or maybe more react instead of responding. It kind of short circuits our ability to maybe take a pause and think before we speak. It makes, I feel that the toxins in general in our food and keeping the blood sugar level are all aspects of a lot of the depression and a lot of the anger that we see today. So I think I have seen it, even the fact that when we eat, in order to fuel our body, we get enough protein, we get enough good whole foods, we have the energy to invest not only in eating better again and making our own food, but into our relationships also.
I think that's so true. And into your purpose.
And yes, into the purpose.
Into
yes.
the purpose, right?
It's so important.
Yeah.
Because when we do feel like we're on purpose, then life is just better. Relationships are better because we were meant to have a meaningful life.
So good. So good. Well, and I think about, okay, so this is kind of where we're at. This is the state of what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of depression. We're seeing a lot of, people that are dealing with anxiety. Anxiety is out of the roof, especially this time of year. It's heightened anyway, as people are rounding up the year or getting prepared for the holidays and that type of thing. But I think, as we kind of pause for a moment and say, okay, I know it's the food. I know these are the responses that I'm having. My glucose levels are up and down. My blood sugar, even as healthy as I eat, sometimes I have blood sugar issues. And you can feel it. Like my poor husband is not hangry anymore. It's something else. But anyway, it does affect us, and it affects our ability to be, like you said, calm and collective or on edge, which comes across. So I love that. But again, back to knowledge is power. We're seeing these underlying issues. What are some things that you ladies are excited about that we have the power and the ability and the stewardship to do for ourselves, as far as how we take care of our foods, how we learn about testing opportunities, how we, take stock of our emotional management and things of that nature. So I guess I could start with you, Denise, this time.
Okay. Well, as far as testing, I went back to school at 68 and became a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. So because I wanted to offer testing, functional testing, that actually lets us know what the body is doing
Mhm.
instead of just trying to diagnose a disease, because
Mm.
there's a big difference in that.
Mhm.
And so I am very excited about the prospects of what's on the horizon for people becoming educated on their food and what it's doing to them or for them. I think if I could like wave a magic wand and have one thing happen, it would be for us to get back in the kitchen and make our own foods. And
Mhm.
because every single restaurant you go to is going to use seed oils unless it advertises like it's a specialty restaurant that doesn't.
Mhm.
And I just find with my clients, the ones that actually cook their own food do so much better
Sure.
Mhm.
because you know what's going into that. And even the ingredients that you normally put in your food are just going to be higher quality in general.
Mm.
So I think that to me would be the most empowering thing we could do in regards to food.
Let's get back in the kitchen.
Get back in the kitchen.
Yeah, I love that. We were talking about that recently, and just even the time, that you spend in the kitchen, right? The time with your family. I know growing up, my mom would have to say, "Get out of the kitchen, you're in the way," that kind of thing, just joking. But now it's like, no, we want people in the way. Like I want this island in the kitchen where everybody kind of gathers around and you can chat and you can talk and you can snack on the whatever while you're cooking, right?
The veggies.
The veggies. Yes, of course, the veggies.
Well, kids are also more likely to eat something that they have had a hand in preparing.
Yes.
When they understand what they're putting into their body, then they're more engaged in eating it. And
Mhm.
they have so much more positive energy
Mm.
in actually eating that food that they may not have eaten if you just put it in front of them without any, involvement in that process. As a
Mm,
homeschool
for sure.
mom, we make sure that part of every single day the kids are in the kitchen with us. They're helping to cook some of our meals. They're going out into the backyard garden and helping pick things that we have access to because we're growing in our own yard.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it's interesting that all three of us are homeschool moms, but that also speaks to, again, taking back our power. There are some systemic issues that we're dealing with, in America, and this is why the title of today's talk is the hope for the future of America, the hope for the health of America. And when we think about where we're at, whether it is the educational health, which leads to everything, their belief systems, their patterns, their abilities to have critical thinking skills, those types of things. At homeschool, I actually teach the cooking class, and one of my favorite quotes that I've heard over the past is, "People will support that which they help to create," and that even has, with your littles. My class ranges from like 5 years old to 13 years old in the kitchen, and that's quite a range, right? But they enjoy it, and they're proud of it. And if we can create that sense of pride in something, even just as simple as preparing for food for ourselves, right? We think of God giving us the ability to be stewards over our bodies. And part of that is education, but also part of that is just being part of the process and pouring back into yourself and knowing that you're giving yourself nutritious food. So I love all of that. So when it comes to like some systemic issues that we're dealing with, the hope that we have is the trajectory of the change that we're seeing, right? And when I look at what you provide, and even the life coaching and the mentorship and the development that you get with the 7 pillars through the Unbreakable Life journey, right now, our insurance system, our healthcare system doesn't really support anything that you're hearing about today. And there is a reason that we believe that it is not supported. And it is very unfortunate because these types of things that we're talking about put you in the place of healing, of health, of hope, of possibilities, of energy for purpose, of richer relationships, all of those types of things. But when we look at, okay, we'll pause there. We're not going to go any more negative. But what does this hope create for us? What will it mean in the world? And let's say 2 years from now, when people potentially, hopefully, will have access to get non-traditional healthcare.
So access to non-traditional healthcare is something that everybody should be able to, um, you know, have the access to. Our ancestors lived for thousands of years without the current chemically based, healthcare system, and they lived. I mean, read some of the books of people. They lived 120 years, and they did it using herbs and diet and growing their own food, knowing what they were putting into their body and what they were putting on the table. Um, it would be amazing for everyone that we have in our country to have access to non-traditional routes of healthcare, whether that is through chiropractic or massage or acupuncture. All of these things that allow us to really get in touch with our body and how it functions, and then the way that our body can naturally heal itself. It's if it is supported by those structures.
Right. And Denise, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yes, to go off of what Mary said, I do believe we were created with the ability to heal. That's obvious. When we cut ourselves, we heal, right? That's what the body wants to do. It strives for that. And I think if we have more access to the services and the foods and all that supports that, it's just going to make a huge difference in the day-to-day lives of people. I think I am grateful that we have traditional medicine because, it was born on the battlefield. So it was created to save lives that had been traumatized, right? And so it does an amazing job at that. But it can never be the answer for us to be healthy. And I think we need to do things that are more in alignment with how we were created to be and to function, to really have vibrant health, resilience.
Absolutely. And when we think about the services that both of you ladies provide, how cost prohibitive is it for people who have the mindset of, gosh, if my insurance doesn't cover it, I guess I can't get it?
So, being a mental health provider, our office accepts insurance, and we hear this conversation all of the time. But here's the thing with current healthcare insurance, all right? First of all, you're paying $600 for your family to have health insurance, and then they don't cover anything until you've paid $20,000 out of pocket or $10,000 out of pocket. Why? You're paying into this system that's supposed to be there to support you and to give you the care that you need, but they don't pay for anything. So I often have to talk to families about the fact, well, this service, even though it may not be something that's covered by your insurance, you can actually submit it yourself. You can get a super bill and you can provide that to your insurance, and then it goes towards your deductible, which a lot of families never meet. We have families that come to our office and they have a $20,000 deductible. They can't meet that over the course of a year.
Right.
So why are they paying into this health insurance plan? Also, the health insurance plans, they don't give you access to the care that you want. One of the services that our office provides is neurofeedback. And up until 8 years ago, they did cover neurofeedback. And then we received a letter from all of the insurance companies in the same week, citing the same 6 studies, saying neurofeedback doesn't work. But neurofeedback's been around since 1924. There's hundreds of thousands of studies that show that it does work. It's so effective. NASA puts every single astronaut through neurofeedback training before they'll send them to space to strengthen their mind.
Wow.
So the stuff is there. I think that the family also has to look at the long-term costs. Right now, getting these services and feeding your family the right way is going to protect you and them down the road.
Right.
So do we want to protect against cancer? Do we want to protect against diabetes? Do we want to protect against things like Alzheimer's and dementia by making sure that we're feeding our body and our brain the right way and that we're getting the type of medical care that is going to support continued health?
That's really good.
Yes. Well, I am a cash practice. And so, it is it is hard for some people uh, to partake of services that they have to pay cash for. But sometimes there's a mentality too of, well, if insurance doesn't cover it, I'm just not going to do it,
Sure.
and because I pay $10 to go for my insurance for this visit or whatever. So personally, I have invested in my health over my lifetime because I always did want the alternative stuff, So it is an investment, but like Mary says, down the road, if you look at the total cost, I mean, at my age now, I don't have any chronic pain in my body. I can get up and down off the floor. I can do all the things I want to do. Like, how valuable is that,
Right.
So I think it would be wonderful if that's the direction that we do go, where it starts incorporating more and more of that kind of thing. I do have some clients that have what is it called? The medical share.
MediShare?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so different organizations that do that. So it's not really insurance, and some has paid for that kind of stuff. So for the alternatives. So
yeah, I think, I think, again, it goes back to mindset. And that's the reason for me that I had to go through my personal journey of taking back my power. I had to go through self-discovery. Who is Teresa? What are my beliefs? What is my mindset? What was those trauma and defining moments? And then, now I can focus on health. But I didn't have a catastrophic event. I didn't have something that required me, which unfortunately a lot of us do. We've been destroying our bodies for years and years and years, but just by lack of knowledge, lack of understanding about some of the toxins that we're exposing ourselves to, and the foods that we're eating, and the radiation, and all of the things that we're, exposing ourselves to, just because we maybe call it convenience. I don't know, or because nobody taught us that it wasn't okay. I remember when I first got into the homeschool system, and we had quite a few families that knew more about their own unique health. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. How do you know that? And why don't I? But, and we would find some kids that they were like, well, they can't have red dye. I'm like, well, what does that do? And it just lack of information, lack of understanding that there is a correlation between the fruit snacks and the different things that we're putting in our bodies. And as I think about that mindset that we have, and you talk about, it does cost, right? But what is a value? And that's what we have to ask ourselves is, what is a value? Is my health a value? And what is, in business, we talk about this all the time. What is the, oh, darn, I'm going to mess up the word, but what is the loss opportunity? That's not really the word I'm looking for, but the disadvantage by not taking advantage of this. Like, what am I potentially losing? What is the cost? I don't remember. You guys know what I'm talking about. But when you weigh it out and you say, okay, my cost for this is this, but when I don't do it, what's my real cost, right? And so when we think about our individual healthcare, whether it is a mental health situation that we need to get to the root cause of that, or it's a chemical imbalance, or it's something that's doing with our body, what's the cost of not dealing with it? Is it a relationship that's broken? Is it a situation where we lose our job because we're sick all the time? Is it a situation where we can't have friends because we're mean to everybody? Is it a situation where I can't get up and play with my kids because I don't have the energy? Is it a situation where I don't achieve well done, good and faithful servant because I didn't have the energy to do my call? Like, what is the opportunity cost? You're welcome. I figured it out. Opportunity cost. What did we lose because we didn't put the value in there? And I want to ask you guys this as our viewers is, what is the opportunity cost? What are you losing by just the beliefs that we've accepted over time? One of the illustrations that I love to share is about beliefs. And, before I left my banking career of 15 years, I was 100% afraid to leave my banking career because of health insurance being lost. I was told forever, get a job, get health insurance. Get a job, get health insurance. get a job that offers health insurance. Keep the job that offers health insurance. So the place that it was a golden handcuff, right? And then somebody expanded my thinking that said, you can go get your own health insurance. You can use MediShare. You can do different things, right? And then my knowledge got expanded even more. But I think so many times our beliefs based on what we've been told over and over and over again cause us to believe something that really isn't true. Here's a case in point. I heard the story, and maybe you've heard it, of a young man who is at, a barbecue at his grandmother's house, and his mom brings the brisket out, and he looks at the pan and he's like, Mom, why'd you cook the brisket that way? And she's like, well, what's wrong with it? He says, Mom, all of the juicy ends of the brisket are just gone. Why'd you cook it that way? And she goes, oh, I don't know. That's the way grandma cooked it. And so he goes to grandma because she's like in the living room, taking care of people. And he's like, Grandma, why'd you do that? And she's like, what? He goes, why'd you take all the juiciness off of the brisket? And she goes, well, I don't know. That's the way Nana did it. Go ask Nana. Mm-hmm. And so he goes to Nana and he says, Nana, come on. I know you know what tastes good. And he said, why did you do it? Why did you cut the juicy part off the brisket? And she said, oh, honey, it's because my pan was only so big. Mm-hmm. You see, we so many times in our life believe something because we've been told and told and told again that this is it without ever getting back to the root cause. And what if that root cause is because somebody wants to make money? What if that root cause is because somebody said that this was the most important meal of the day because I want to make money off of you? I don't care what your health is. What if that's the root cause? But you have the power today to say, oh, I'm going to take that power back. I'm going to get back to that juicy brisket, and I'm going to get a bigger pan, and I'm going to expand my thinking and my knowledge, and I'm going to change the trajectory of my life. And oh, by the way, 3 generations down. What if that was your power? So today it is. Today you have an opportunity to do that. And Mary was going to show us a couple of things about some tools and resources that you have that don't require a visit to somebody in case you got to work out some insurance or whatever, right? But Mary's going to talk to us about some things that you can do to take back your power.
So we all have these wonderful things in our hands nowadays, and they're basically just a microcomputer. But we have a ton of apps that are available to us now that allow us to actually scan our food as well as our body care products and determine whether or not this food is something that we really want to be putting into our body or into our child's body. And there's a bunch of different apps you can choose from. There's Yuka. That one does both food and body care products. Think Dirty is a fun one. And that one does mostly your body care products, because what we also don't take into account is our skin is actually our largest organ. And everything that we put onto our skin is going into our body. It's being absorbed. I like Think Dirty because it tells you something that you should be putting on your skin. It also it tells you on your skin. And if it's a carcinogen, you're putting a cancer-causing agent onto your body and allowing your body to absorb it without realizing that you're even doing it. And it also lets you know if some of the items that you're putting on your body are hormone disruptors. And many of the things that we put onto our body that have scents, they're unnatural scents, they're actually hormone disruptors. So many perfumes, many of the deodorants that we use, even our laundry soap and our dryer sheets actually contain chemicals that are hormone disruptors. And this goes back to, how does that affect our relationships and our mood? If our hormones are not working the way that they're supposed to because they're being disrupted, well, then that has a huge impact on mental health.
So quit buying your spouse fragrance. No, just kidding.
There's another app that is called Bobby Approved. And with this one, you can scan a food. And let me see. I'm not sure the camera can catch it. But so Lay's potato chips was the food that I stopped at the gas station to pick up. Let's see if I can get the app to work. You can scan it, and then it comes up with a list, if it wants to work, of reasons why you should or should not eat a food. And when I scanned the Lay's potato chips before coming in, we got a list of the different oils that are used in the Lay's potato chips, and it is using seed oils. And it tells you this is using seed oils. This is an inflammatory food that you should not be ingesting. And it also said vegetable oil was also used. This is also an inflammatory food we do not want to be ingesting. But I did the same with, a Kit Kat bar and got a list of all of the lovely chemicals that are inside of that. And we shouldn't be putting into our body. Reese's peanut butter cups used to be one of my favorite things on the planet. Until I discovered they actually put a flame retardant inside of the peanut butter. That's what gives Reese's peanut butter cups that flavor in their peanut butter that makes it so unique. So, there are tools and resources that we can use to look up what exactly am I putting into my body, and should I be putting this into my body? Many of them do. They come up with a color code. Red is something you should not be eating. Yellow is something you need to be cautious with, and green is something that they're giving you the green light on.
Wow. So seaweed chips are okay.
Depends.
Depends on what kind of oil they use. Yeah. Wow. I posted something on Facebook the other day, and I had a seed butter on there, and somebody said seed oils are terrible. Well, I'm like, but this is seed butter. Like, can you talk about seed oils for a minute? Like, why? Okay, so oils. So what are oils? Obviously, we put oils to make things hold their flavor a little bit better, to cook a little bit better, right? To fry or to do different things. But, oils are pretty much in everything. And to your point earlier about just cooking at home, you can minimize the types of oils that you're getting. But what would be a good oil? And talk about seed oils.
Okay, so seed oils were originally created as lubricant for machinery. They were never.
Well, I was told that my body is a machine. No, I'm just kidding.
Not that type of machine. Yes, we are a machine. However, these particular seed oils, they're so hyper processed that there's no nutrition left inside of the oil that we're receiving. So when you're eating, something and it's using canola oil or sunflower oil or safflower oil and vegetable oil, you think that those are healthy things because of the words that are on the front of them.
Yeah.
These are supposed to be healthy foods, but the way that they've ultra processed them, they're no longer healthy for us. And they are an ultra inflammatory, and it is pretty immediate. It happens as soon as we eat it, our intestines become inflamed. Wow. And this is universal. This is one particular thing that we know this happens for every human being. We have that response. These oils are very, very inflammatory. When it comes to cooking, I don't use oils. We use butter, and only cow's butter, or we use beef tallow. Those are the most important oils that you can stick with. You can use coconut oil, you can use avocado oil, but with the caveat that these are also being ultra processed. Right. If you are using an oil, it should be in solid form. So like the liquid coconut oil is not one that I would use. And olive oil right now, I've heard really great things about all the health benefits of olive oil. The problem is the amount of olive oil that we are producing isn't possible based on the number of olive trees that are currently alive.
Oh, so they might be fake.
They're adding things to the olive oil. So I actually am staying away from those as well. Sticking with your beef tallows and your butters, those are the best options for cooking.
So what's beef tallow?
It's basically just beef fat.
Perfect for a carnivore dietor.
Yes.
I love it. Denise, what do you have to say about different ways that we can take back our power with our food?
Well, of course, first getting educated about it. It's really, in today's world, it's kind of not okay to not understand what we're eating, because things are so ultra processed and there's so many things in them, like the seed oils. And so I think that education is really the foundation for it, because I know awareness has grown a lot recently, but I am still finding that a lot of people feel like, well, if the government allowed that to be on the shelf, then it must be okay. So I would say when you're going to the grocery store, I just thought of this. There's a book called Rich Food, Poor Food. And it's a GPS for the grocery store. Take that book with you, and you can, it goes through every section of the grocery store and gives you like, steer this way, steer away, steer towards. And so it's a really rich resource for people in a very user-friendly way to learn about food and what's actually in there. One caveat, I don't think it's been revised recently, but it's still really good information. I'm sure there's a lot more out there. And so I think that would be a really good tool. And another thing with food, it's not only what we eat, it's how we process it and what we digest. So going back to your point about mindset, I think it's so huge, and the stress level that we've all been going through, like the whole world has gone through elevated stress in the last few years. And it's really played a role in even the food that we eat, how it works. So one thing that I like to teach my clients is how to breathe, because most people do not know how to breathe.
So teach us.
Okay. So it's fun. So when you're breathing, you want to relax your shoulders and relax your legs. We can actually do it if you want. Okay.
Yes.
And so when it's funny, because when I ask a client, take a deep breath from me, and they're usually like laying on the table, I can see what's moving, and it's usually the belly comes out. Belly breathing is not deep breathing. You can push your belly out and not move your diaphragm. When you move your diaphragm, it is actually equal to exercise. So if somebody can't, as far as moving your lymphatic system, it's equal to exercise, not for your muscles. But so if what you want to do is you want to move that diaphragm, and if you when you breathe in, you can put your hands right here, and you want your hands to come out like this direction.
Expanding out with lungs.
Yes. And think of yourself as a cylinder, and you're going to expand all the way around. Even your back, you should feel your back expand. So if you relax your shoulders, and then and you should feel this expand and back here. So when you're moving that diaphragm, you're actually improving your digestion of the food that you do eat.
Wow. And are you recommending that while people are eating, or just throughout the day?
Well, so I like to tell people that the best time to practice it is when you're in bed. So before you go to sleep, and when you wake up in the morning, because you're not using any muscles. See, it's really hard here because we're
sitting
crunched, and there's not enough room to really expand. But if you do it and you practice when you're not using your muscles, then you can use it as a tool just throughout the day if you feel stressed, or if you do get in a stressful situation, you can use it, or you can just randomly do it because it's good for you to oxygenate your brain and all the things, So
that's a really good practical tip that they can just deal with right away.
Exactly.
I think I would love for you to talk about this as well, is when you talk about mindset and mood when you're eating. What happens when you're eating while you're stressed? Let's say we're driving home from work and we're stressed out, and we go through a drive-through somewhere, and we're like chowing down on our way home while we're stressed, or we've got kids in the back seat and we're throwing nuggets. But we're like, just eat, right? Tell us the difference that people go through when they actually like intentionally sit down and I've talked about something in my eye, but when they intentionally sit down and eat together as a family.
Oh, this is so huge. So in the old days when my kids were growing up, we ate at the table every night and the whole family was there. And it is such a difference. This and talking about relationships and food. Food is a social thing,
Right.
as we know, and sometimes that makes it hard to eat really healthy.
Sure.
But the bond that comes from sharing food with people you love is really huge. And I think even because I'm very into energetics, like the love that food is made with makes a difference when we eat it too. Like a fast food restaurant is not made with love. Okay.
Well, okay, think about that for a minute. Like, let's just say energy speaking, right? Which I don't know much about, but I'm going to learn right now. But let's just say that you're reliant on fast food because that's just been your fast-paced life and that's been and let's say the people that work there are grumpy and they're cooking your food and they're throwing stuff on the grill and they're mad and they're not treated well and all of those types of things and that's all you're getting.
Right.
How does that affect you?
Well, there's a lot of hormones that happen, stress hormones, hunger hormones. Eating actually is dependent on hormones a lot. And when our cortisol is high and our different hormones are, not they're not in balance because either we're in a stressful situation or the food was cooked in a stressful situation. I just believe that, it affects us. And God made us energetic beings. We feel different things. You've walked into a room with somebody and you're like, oh, you
Right.
feel that, or
Right.
you feel the energy. And so it does extend to our food. And I think having, sitting together as a family, it not only makes the food digest better because the hormones that are more like oxytocin and things
Right.
that are flowing, that makes a huge difference in how the food affects our body and how the nutrition is utilized. And sometimes I think we talk about all the toxins that are in the food. And yeah, we live in a very stressful world, but I always like to say I do my part and I try to do like at least 90-10, like healthy, and then live a little. But but it is, I think the stress and the worry over it, like get educated, do what you can do, and then let God take care of the rest.
I love that. Mary, anything you would add on that as far as the quality time and how that improves relationships?
So much of our digestion has to do with our being calm. If we're in a constant state of stress and anxiety and all of that, well, you feel that knot in your belly, and that is the sign that your belly is not processing your food. It's literally just sitting there, and that's what that lump is that you're feeling because you're not in rest and digest. So when you sit down at the table with your family or your friends, and it's a social experiment or experience, I guess it is an experiment too.
Yeah.
You're engaging your parasympathetic, and your body then can get into rest and digest, and you're going to use that food the way that your body was supposed to be using that food.
So good. So we think about families that maybe sit around in front of the TV and watch TV. Like maybe they're not in a stressful setting, but they're watching stressful things on TV, things that elevate their their heart rate and all of those types of things that can also play a role in.
Absolutely. We are not supposed to be sitting in front of screens all of the time, just in general, but especially during a meal. When we're sitting in front of a screen during a meal, we're not allowing our body to read all of the hunger and full signals. We're also not chewing our food to the depth that we're supposed to. So in some of the fields of medicine, and especially Ayurveda, I've heard all of my physicians say you need to chew your food until it's a liquid, and you need to drink your liquids and chew them like they're a food. Because part of the chewing process is what engages all of those hormones and chemicals that are supposed to begin the digestion process.
Wow.
It all starts before you ever put anything in your mouth.
Wow. Wow. Well, so many great takeaways. And I think, as we close out today's segment on the hope for health for America, I want us to think about, yes, there's some exciting things coming up, that we are all excited about. Like the day that well, November 12th, I guess it was, right? We were all excited. Like I was excited. I was doing cartwheels particularly because of the health perspective. And, when I look at that and I look at, okay, we're seeing some positive changes that are expected, that are coming from the way that the government regulates our health. And, whether there's a lot of political things we can go with in that, and that's not what this talk show is about. So we won't go in there, but I will say this, there is hope coming for us to have unique, individualized health that it supports our unique bodies and how God created us to be. And for that, I am incredibly excited. But we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait for the government to start, doing their studies and figuring out, what's no longer good. I mean, we talked about the food pyramid earlier before we started, and how old the food pyramid is, and our thoughts around why it was created, and the fact that we were told from like kindergarten that this is this is what our food should look like on our plate. So like all this programming that went into healthy eating from a very young age, right? It has created who we are today. But we don't have to wait for that to be analyzed and rebuilt and all of that. We can start today. We have been empowered now with some breathing techniques, some things that you can do that will help you to just be more calm and to let your body work the way it's supposed to work. We've been empowered with some technology tools that you can use to tell you whether this food is good or not, and as a mom, it is very important to me what my kids eat. Now, I can't always win that battle. I sometimes struggle winning the battle with myself around what I eat, right? I mean, to be quite honest, it is a daily battle to say, am I going to do this to my body or am I not? And sometimes it's a challenge with your children. But you have the ability, you have the power, and you have the tools. And as we close up today, I would love to give Mary and Denise an opportunity to give you a final takeaway and how to reach out to them. Because whether it's for you or maybe your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your cousin, somebody that needs the services that they talked about today, we want to make sure that you have an ability to connect. So, Mary, we'll start with you.
Okay. So I think the biggest thing to take away is that we do have the ability to take control. We have not only the ability, but the responsibility to take control for our children and our future. The things that we put onto our body, and the resources that we have for education are there. And I encourage everybody to please start digging into those and look at these things, not only for yourself, but for your children and your grandchildren. So our practice, again, we're Infinite Potential Counseling. We're located in Round Rock and in Austin. We are also online, and we do have social media channels. We have Facebook, Instagram. We're on X, and we are launching a YouTube channel called Reinventing Mental Health, which will be coming in the next few months.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you for being on with us today. And Denise.
Okay. Well, I agree with Mary with all of that. And I think it's really important for us to take personal responsibility for our health. So I think the saying would be, don't leave your future health in the hands of anyone else, whether it be the government, because no matter what the government does, we are hopeful that things are going to change. They might not change as much as we want. We don't know. It might be better, but we can always take personal responsibility. And also, just to give hope, like when I was 17 and bedridden, I did not think that was a very cool thing. Okay. It was my worst nightmare, but it totally changed the direction of my life. So no matter where you are, there's always hope, and use it as a catalyst to get to the next level or to improve what you want to improve, meet your health goals. And so my practice is called Denise Norbut Functional Wellness, and I am in Round Rock also. And I think you have the link for them to contact me. And what I like to do is to sit down with somebody via Zoom for about 30 minutes and see, what they're dealing with and if we're a good fit to work together. So that's a free consultation that I do.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, friends, thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Mary and Denise. You're so welcome. We do have hope. We have hope, and it actually rests in your hands. So go out and do something today. Take this knowledge that you've learned and empower yourself. Take back your power. Thank you for joining us on the Seven Pillars Talk Show. And we have one thing to celebrate today before we finalize. We actually, speaking of hope, speaking of inspiration, and speaking of purpose, Mary and I just received the great news of best-selling status on our brand new book, Pieces to Purpose. This book is full of stories from 17 different authors. Mary's story about the challenges that she went through with her son. My story about some challenges that I dealt with in life that I didn't even know I dealt with until I looked inward and decided it was time for me to live my life's purpose. I just had to figure out what it was first. And so that is in here as well. But we are so excited to have this. But friends, thank you for joining us on the Seven Pillars Talk Show. We look forward to helping you build your unbreakable life through our 7 pillars and go out and live your life's purpose. God bless you. Thank you for watching.